Bruce Springsteen once said, "Getting an audience is hard. Sustaining an audience is hard. It demands a consistency of thought, of purpose, and of action over a long period of time."
Welcome to Magicians Talking Magic. My name is Ryan Joyce. My name is Kris Sheppard.
And my name is Gramazing. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Magicians Talking Magic. And this week we have special guest host Kris Sheppard. Everybody at home, triple snaps to Kris Sheppard joining us this week on the episode. So this week, Ryan, as we all know, is always very busy with video projects. If you're familiar with things like he's created this monster documentary in Fergus, Ontario. He creates these Halloween specials. He creates numerous artistic video pieces. So he is currently in the weeds, editing, filming, doing lots of meetings and establishing lots of cool projects. So we have Kris Sheppard here joining us from Performer Stories podcast, and also personally one of my favorite podcasters, because before I started doing this podcast, Kris had a magic podcast ages ago. Kris, tell us about your first podcast. Also introduce yourself too.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Kris Sheppard. I've been in and around the magic community for, I guess, about 15 years now. But my first magic podcast was the successful Performer Cast. And even after more than 100 episodes of doing that, it's still very difficult for me to say. But I interviewed a number of mainly magicians, but also musicians, jugglers, other variety artists about their businesses, and kind of picking up tips and tricks on how they've been able to make it and succeed full time. And these days I'm doing a podcast called Performer Stories, which is considerably easier to say than Successful Performer Cast. But with this podcast, I've been talking to other entertainers, musicians, magicians, variety acts, and Broadway performers, stage performers and stuff as well, kind of getting their war stories and just different stories from on stage or backstage or traveling, or it could be the good, the bad, the heartwarming, the cringeworthy, anything goes. And I've had so many. I've run the gamut so far on stories, and I'm only like 20 something episodes in.
You've had some really great guests too. People like Rudy Kobe and Mario the Maker Magician and
Graham Reed
and Gramazing too. But these stories are great because when you hear someone talk about a road story or even a heartwarming story, there's so much to learn from those personal tales, right? And it goes beyond just the magic tricks and things like that. It's like the actual connections,
Yeah, and it's kind of like after the show, hanging out at Denny's, because you never plan on going to Denny's, you just somehow end up there, and then you're just sharing these stories after the show, and it's kind of a behind the scenes look as well for people who aren't necessarily an entertainer. They kind of get the whole picture of the entertainers that they like to listen to or watch or whatever. So.
Man, I miss those Denny's or those Boston Pizza or those pub hangouts after a show or after a club meeting. When you get together with the magicians and you really dive into the nitty gritty of what everyone's working on. And there's someone that always has a trick that they've been wanting to share the whole night, and the opportunity eventually arises in that kind of late night meeting that usually goes till 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah, and it's usually a card trick that involves 21 cards. Am I right?
Speaking of 21 cards, I'm going to plug it here because I feel like it's official. We haven't officially announced what Third Book Club is, but I think it's official. I feel like you made it official, Kris, by making the purchase. And I know Colin in the Discord too plans on getting a copy, borrowing a copy. But Brent Bronze, I was looking for it too. Plots, Ploys, and Other Cons will be, oh great. Kris, nice. This is our official book club number 3. I have personally read this book 4 times already. And I hope to read it like 20 more times. But Kris, you have you plowed through the entire book already now too?
Just about. There's a couple portions of it that I really just kind of glossed over. But I intend on going back and kind of picking those up. Um, a couple card tricks that didn't really seem to interest me on the surface. I more enjoy other
Sure.
kinds of tricks just because card tricks are so many.
There's, I know. I've also been realizing when you look at a premise of a card trick, maybe torn and restored. Do I have
Hmm.
something that fits that plot? Yes. Do I have something that fits this plot and I enjoy the method? Yes. However, reading this Brent Braun trick book, all the tricks have so much value in it because he's, well, I called you the Magic Whisperer, but Brent Braun is a real deal magic whisperer. He's got so much thought into this book. And if you were a fan of our first book club with Paul Harris's Art of Astonishment, then this is kind of in that same realm of really appreciating high level magic as an art. So book club number 3, I figure we'll probably record that at the end of July or something like this. So if you want to get in on our book club, make sure you join our Discord.
Yeah. And it's interesting how I don't know how he did it, but he made that book an emotional experience, And that's
Yeah.
all I'm going to say. You
Yeah.
got to get the book and you got to take part in this book club.
These book
I
clubs
cannot wait.
These book clubs have been I love the book clubs when we actually take the time to study a magic book and everything. Now, before we dive into this week's topic, we're just going to run through a quick couple news and updates. This past week, was it this week or last week? But we threw an impromptu Discord magic jam, which is one of our benefits of Discord, which is totally free. It's just a free, safe community that's off of the negative social medias where we can jam privately about magic and share secrets and things. And I threw this out to the Discord group. I'm on TV this week. I'll be on Morning Live again. To be honest, I've exhausted all my material. I've done everything and I've had so many opportunities to be on there, and I was in this weird place. So I threw it out to the room that I wanted. I was just loosely brainstorming. I was like, I want to try something. I want to work on maybe an 8 card brainwave. And Kris, I know you had shared something before, like some methods on 8 card brainwave or some versions of it to make it more than just the standard card trick.
Hmm.
So I pitched the question to you, and we threw a little impromptu jam that I think was intended to last maybe like 30-ish minutes. And we sat there for 2 hours, and we had we had David Johnson join in. We had Richard Wilson from Las Vegas join in. He shared his stories about busking on the streets too
Yeah,
on Fremont, which was really fascinating, super interesting stuff. So you never know what's going to happen in those Discord jams, right, Kris?
that's right. Yeah.
And I hope we're going to plan to do another one too, because I know Kid Oldman wants to do a Chicago opener. So we did actually jam out on Chicago opener in this one too, but we'll do it again. I feel like we need to throw it out to Kid to give us a time. If you're a member of our Discord and you want to jam on something specific, just toss out a time into the group and we'll see if we can make it work. I think that's the way that I don't want to put the pressure on everyone feeling like they have to be there,
Hmm.
This is very casual. It's just a community group. If you can join in, that's fine. If you can't, that's totally okay.
Yeah, you can jump in, jump out. You can show up fashionably late or fashionably early. And the cool thing is, Discord, which I wasn't aware about, actually has its own audio video platform, like right there in the app,
Hmm.
either on mobile or desktop. Because I joined from desktop,
Yeah.
and it was pretty cool.
Yeah. And I know that Discord's been working on making that streamlined because we've tried it before. It was a little clunky, but it's getting better, that video quality. And yeah, jamming it's so easy. You just click and you're joining into a video group with everyone jamming on magic. And
Yep.
it's really cool. The last thing that I'm going to plug is merch. We have brand new Magicians Talking Magic merchandise. So if you want to support the podcast or if you want to represent us with a cool new t-shirt, I wish I had them. I don't have them just yet. They're on order. But because I'm a graphic design junkie and so is Joyce, always refresh the store because you will constantly see new designs added. I think I even just added a new design last night that I'm going to do a couple versions of as well.
There you go.
The
There's the
MPN,
shirt.
there's the shirt. Yeah, Kris has got the exclusive shirt right there. But it's through Redbubble. So if you click on the shirt, you also have the opportunity. You can change the color of the shirt if you want. You can get it on a pin or a sticker or on other merchandise too. It's kind of like choose your own custom adventure if you want. It's really great stuff. It's super fun. And I love designing that stuff too. Kris, do you have any big news and updates for you going on in the magic world right now?
Well, I had just a couple months ago made a huge move, uprooted my family, me, my wife, and my four kids. Count them. That's one, two, three, four. Um, it's funny because Jim Gaffigan has a joke. He says, "You want to know what it's like having four kids? Imagine you're drowning, and then somebody hands you a baby." And to answer your next question, because I know you haven't said it yet, but you're thinking it. Yes, I do have a TV. But we moved from California, Ventura County, which is just like northwest of where the Magic Castle is in Hollywood.
Okay.
And we moved from there all the way across the country down into Central Florida. And we're now living in I think it's a suburb of Orlando or something. It's a Four Corners area.
But you did Disney to Disney trip.
Pretty much.
And in the middle of a pandemic with four kids. What's a cross-country U.S. trip like that with an entire family?
Well, it involves a lot of fighting amongst the kids, and no, it was really good. We decided to make a whole road trip out of it. We basically packed all of our stuff into one of those pod things that you buy or rent, and then they ship all your stuff across the country for you.
Oh, cool.
And
okay.
so what we needed to do, we just needed to have what we needed for the road trip. And we went and traveled down a good portion of Route 66. And and so as Graham had mentioned, we're big Disney fans. So we had wanted to see a number of the places that had inspired Radiator Springs in the Cars movie. And so we went and saw things like Cadillac Ranch, which is a interesting art. It's not like an exhibit, but somebody had basically taken a bunch of Cadillacs and buried them nose first at an angle so that the backs of them are jutting out.
Wow.
And people can go there and add their own art. So people bring spray paint and they, spray paint on the cars and create their own art in that way. But that was inspiration for like what you see on the mountain range in Radiator Springs. And previously we'd been to Seligman, Arizona, which was kind of a little forgotten town that used to be off of Route 66 before they, moved to the highway and stuff. And that was a town that had pretty much, I think it had died or almost died out, but somehow came back just as a tourist attraction kind of a thing. And so that town was inspiration for Radiator Springs as well, just kind of the small town feel. And
that's cool.
So we saw a number of really cool places like that. We visited a couple of national parks, Painted Desert, Petroglyph something, and Petrified Forest. And yeah, it was just a really cool trip. We were able to show our kids different places across the country. And the funny thing is, we're actually going to be making the trip back to visit California for a while. And so this weekend, we're actually heading out again.
Really? To do the road trip all over again?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, to visit. And then we'll hightail it back and do it quicker on the way back. But
how many days is the trek? Is it like a week?
I think you can probably make it in like 4 days or something like that. But we're going to be taking our time and really trying to hit places that we hadn't been able to hit before. And yeah, so I guess we're addicted to road trips.
Is there something that you learned from the first one, the big cross country trip, that maybe is like, ooh, we got to remember this for next time for sure?
Be fluid. Don't be too married to your plans or whatever, because we on our trip out here, we actually had to kind of reroute a couple of times because for the first leg of the trip, we were trying to outrun a snowstorm.
Wow.
And so then we were kind of taking like the higher route across the country, and then we dipped down and went into Louisiana and New Orleans and stuff. And in doing that, we actually drove around tornadoes that were going on, like if we had continued across like the highway we had been on before.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we avoided snowstorm and tornadoes.
One last question, because I'm so
Yeah.
interested now, because this is something I'd love to do, is drive through across the states, right? As a Canadian, that'd be so cool.
Do it.
What was maybe your favorite state or place to kind of see? Because I personally, before, and as you think about it, I've driven all across Canada,
Mhm.
and I know Vancouver is amazing. Newfoundland is absolutely incredible, but I think one of the most majestic places is actually Northern Ontario. You kind
Yeah.
of get the sense of all of Canada in one unique hub in Northern Ontario, and I don't think many people visit
Mm.
Northern Ontario.
No, I've never been there.
Yeah.
um, I think my favorite is Arizona. Just we didn't visit it on this trip, but 2 years ago we took our family to see the Grand Canyon, and I was completely unprepared for just how much of an emotional experience it would be to see the Grand Canyon, because you get there, you park in the parking lot, and there's like a visitor center right there, at the edge of the lot, and then you go past that, and there's little walkways, and there's forest here and there, and we saw like a little bit of wildlife and stuff back there, and then all of a sudden the forest stops, and right in front of you is this huge chasm, just like it's wider than you can imagine. Photographs just do no justice to it. You have to be there to see it, and it literally takes your breath away.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
so that's my favorite, is the Grand Canyon.
All right. I think I have a new destination that Alicia and I have to go visit once everything opens up, which luckily is finally starting to rapidly open up. But Chris, what do you
Mhm.
think? Should we dive into this week's topic of the week?
Let's do it.
So this week we are talking about, and this was actually, I tossed this over to Chris. I was like, Chris, what do you think we should talk about this week? And you said 5 tips for connecting with your audience, which I think is a great topic, especially as we're getting back into in-person shows. I was really taking a deep thought about this. Virtually connecting with your audience is actually pretty easy. You're in complete control of that audience. You mute everybody. Everyone is paying attention, listening to you. It's such a gift, especially for a kid's show. A kid's magic show virtually is so successful because you can mute everybody, and there's not a little bratty kid kind of possibly ruining it or shouting, and there's not this hype. Everyone is full paying attention to the experience that's going on. It's so beautiful. But when we get back in person, it does take a whole lot more work to stay connected with a group of people. And I know you yourself, you work close-up magic, I work close-up magic, and especially in that setting, it takes a lot of energy and work. And even on stage, like we referred to at the start with the Springsteen quote, if you're doing a 45-minute, hour and a half show, that's
Yeah,
a ton of energy to keep everybody engaged. So we're going to talk about 5 tips and maybe some bonus things in here too about how to connect better with your audience.
absolutely.
So we're going to start off with number 1. And this was a lesson that I think I learned from doing open mics, and that's be relatable. Being relatable and familiar makes people want to be on your side and root for you. As a magician, we don't want to play the bad guy. I think that'd be a weird, premise to play to your audience, unless maybe that's a strong character role you want to do or something, But I think being relatable and familiar makes you more accepted to everybody. Also, make your references more broad and catch-all. I know I'm very niche and unique. And I've learned,
Yeah.
I thought, I was kind of hoping that maybe pro wrestling was a little more known, and it's just almost as niche as magic. So no one knows about it. So making those references, unless it's The Rock or John Cena, even sometimes those don't hit, which is bizarre to me too. So I realized I had to just change my references and things to be a little bit more relatable so that everyone kind of understands what you're talking about. Yeah. What do you think,
Yeah, no, I
Chris?
I agree with that. And for me, it's more of Ultimate Warrior and British Bulldog. Razor Ramon, Tatanka, whatever. But he's We're talking more, was that late 90s?
Oh, that's the night. I mean, that's for sure.
Or early 90s, I guess. I don't know.
That would be early. That's early 90s. That's late 90s. That's the 90s. That's the golden era of wrestling to me.
See, there you go. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
But I found with being relatable, and I kind of liken this to the approach because I do more close-up magic, approaching tables at restaurants or groups at a strolling event, is you kind of got to find a way that you can connect with somebody like really quickly. So, observing and seeing, how their body language is or what they're talking about and stuff. Oftentimes I'll say, if I see somebody is wearing like a shirt with a band on it or something that I know about, hey, I love Rush too, or whatever it is, or somebody has like an awesome beard. It's like, man, dude, I wish I could grow something like that, but it's like I can't get past the uncomfortable phase or whatever. And that way immediately, you're starting with a compliment, and you already have the ice broken, and then you can start chatting a little bit more and just kind of trying to find a common ground in order to really be more relatable to that. And kind of what going along with what Graham was saying as well is you have to be more wide with your references and stuff. So it helps to be at least semi knowledgeable or familiar with what's going on in music or TV or news, pop culture references, whatever. But I think it's generally pretty easy to find something that you can connect on. And then you can kind of go in and say, so I'm going around doing magic. They wanted me to make sure everybody's having a good time and this and that. Would you mind if I show you something real quick and do something quick? And if they don't like it, then you can kick rocks.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I think I like the one thing that you said there too about complimenting your audience as an introductory thing too is a great icebreaker, an easy way to get those people to warm up to you as well. Because also, if you think of it, if someone does have a logo on their t-shirt or their clothes, or they have a cool jean jacket with a button on it or something.
Yeah.
I mean, they did that intentionally. Or if someone has really awesome tattoos, bring up the tattoos. How many do you have? Did you get the addiction? Did you get the bug?
Exactly.
And those kind of questions, we know everyone's going to be like, I got the addiction, I got the bug, because it seems to happen with tattoo people. And the more kind of questions you ask and you understand people, they turn it. I guess this is almost like Peter Turner type stuff, like almost that market research mentalism, where you kind of have this arsenal of you kind of already know what these people will be giving you as an answer. Because even though all of us are unique, there's so many common things that we all appreciate. And it really comes down to style, like beards, clothing, hair, jewelry, or things like that.
Yep.
People wear those things because hopefully during that day someone goes, I really like that thing about you.
Yeah, and even if you can't find something like on the surface like that, you could just connect over. Hey, it looks like you guys are having a good time. How's it going? Then you're having a good time. Clearly, they're having a good time, and let's have a good time together.
Yeah, yeah. Number 2 is be authentic, and I think especially in 2021. Everyone can kind of smell a fake from a mile away, or people, even if you're not fake, even if you're trying your hardest, people still have their like spidey senses up all the time about not trusting anything right now. So it's key to be your authentic self, I think, or even if you've created a character, be authentic to that role in person. If you're doing magic or mentalism, have a set of rules and boundaries that you follow and respect yourself, so you're not kind of being clunky around your values and ethics when it comes to magic. And I know that's kind of a big topic, but I think it all relies to being authentic, understand your core values, what you're about, how you want to be treated as a person, how you want to treat other people as a person. And that'll vary, and that's going to differ from other people too. And that's what makes you unique, and that's what makes you connect with a specific audience too. But I'm really big about authenticity.
Yeah, and with authenticity, I think that's something that really comes with time as well.
Yeah.
And I think it goes deeper than that as well in the material that you pick for yourself. Knowing yourself as a performer. I think you should only perform material that you yourself enjoy and want to perform, because otherwise, it doesn't feel real, and people can tell, maybe this isn't something that you like as much as anything else or whatever. Um, so make sure you're performing material that you yourself really enjoy, and the fact that it takes a while to do, I feel like you have to have a confidence about yourself as well, and really a sense of belonging. People can tell when somebody's walking around, or going up on stage and really feeling like they belong there.
Right.
And if the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, and the more you'll feel that you belong, and the more you'll be able to portray that as well. And then just have fun and play with the audience, because why else are you doing magic anyway? Clearly you like it, and most people like magic as well. And if they don't, they can just go somewhere else or whatever,
Yeah.
and they don't have to watch you, or so and they probably wouldn't have bought tickets to your show anyway. Doesn't matter.
Um,
So,
those are really great points. Kris, for you, do you think you find your confidence in performing from doing endless walk around close up? I know that was what was the big thing for me. And I can't
mhm.
even pinpoint the moment when I realized, oh, it's not at all about these tricks. It's
Yeah.
about the communication we're
Yes.
creating around these tricks.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. In my early years of performing at the restaurants, and it's funny because the very first restaurant gig I landed was the one I've had the longest, and I'd been there 8 years,
Wow,
and
that's good.
and it only ended because of the pandemic and
Sure.
us moving out of California. Um, but in my early days of performing there, I feel like if something like really bad happened, I probably would have quit.
Hmm.
And so, but I also think that I was more careful as well and cautious, which helped things to not happen. But as you perform more, especially in these places where people cut their teeth, um, you know, years down the road, when something bad does happen, like you drop your dang deck of cards into the sink behind the bar twice in the same performance, for the same people, then it's just like, whatever, that happened. I'll have to go get a new deck of cards, but here, let's try this, and then let's chat a little bit, and it's more about the connection between people than it is the tricks, which clearly failed in that one moment.
But I mean, you were still building a fun connection of like, this mishap is happening. And I mean, if you got frustrated with it, then you've broken that connection with your audience. But if you continue to have fun with the accident that you just had, then this is fine. If it's okay for me, it's okay for you,
Hmm.
whatever. It's just magic tricks. It's fine.
Well, see, and the thing about those moments is, I think those moments can often work to strengthen the connection between you and the audience, or the venue that you're performing at and their clients, because maybe they've seen you before, maybe they haven't, but they were there that one time the stupid magician dropped his cards in the sink, and it was funny. And we've seen magicians before, and we know this guy's good because he did some other stuff for us as well, but he's also human, and we're human, and you just kind of find the common ground over that. And people have bad days at work.
Have,
you know
those real
so
moments are actually super great. And that
mhm.
reminds me of totally a random movie. But have you seen It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Tom Hanks?
I have not yet.
Okay. Highly
Yeah.
recommend it. Highly
Okay.
suggest it. It's very good. But there's the one thing about Mr. Rogers. There's a scene in the movie, and I guess this is just a thing about Mr. Rogers. There's a short scene where he's setting up a tent, a pop
Hmm.
up tent, and he's trying to show how easy it is. And he can't do it. He gets very frustrated and mad at the tent a little bit for a second, and then wrestles with it and then sets it up. And then they cut, and then the producer's like, "Do we do that again?" And he says, "No, no, we do. That's what goes in the episode. That was real. That's how I handled. That was me handling. It was really overwhelming." And I guess this is part of Mr. Rogers. But I think
Yeah.
those real moments in magic, just how you mentioned, is what makes the magic seem a little bit more human. And then also, as a good magician will do, is take those real moments and try to manufacture them in the future, or something, or take some of these
Yeah.
like comments or small accidental moments. How do you recreate it so it always feels like the first time again?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
um
Yep.
I'm going to dive into number 3, and then this dives into number 4 at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pair.
Yeah, and I'm going to start off with a quote from Orson Welles. I can think of nothing that an audience won't understand. The only problem is to interest them. Once they're interested, they understand anything in the world. And that's from Orson Welles. And number 3 is be interesting. This is like Joyce's. Um, he does lectures to magic clubs, and his whole thing is about be interesting. Have some value behind you, so you're not just kind of a card trick, right? You're not
Yeah.
just a card trick, or you're not just stale, or you're not just even bland, like you're just doing everything generic as everyone else does. What makes you special and unique? And sometimes that stuff isn't too hard to find. It's just it really everything that we said before leads into this. Being authentic and relatable and all those goes into be interesting. However, this part that goes into number 4, I've heard you mention this before, and this is mind-blowing, and I've seen this before. I love this too, so I think you should talk about this.
Okay, so with first of all, with being interesting, magic and magicians are already inherently interesting. Because how many magicians do people really know? I mean, maybe they know one magician who's like a friend of a friend of a friend or something, and they're constantly asking you if they can get tickets to the Magic Castle. I say tickets because that's what they ask for. They don't ask for an invitation, and not that I'm have a problem with that or anything. But the other thing is when you're doing close-up magic for people, they people generally don't see or get to experience magic live 2 or 3 feet in front of them, and especially not during the pandemic and stuff. But so after you're done or after you do a trick, they're going to have questions, and so they're genuinely interested in you as a person. And so, what are the questions we get asked all the time? How did you get into magic? What do you think about David Copperfield or David Blaine or Chris Angel? I mean, those are probably like the top 4 or 5 questions that magicians get asked today, right? And I say, don't give them a canned response or like a joke kind of a, whatever, when somebody asks, can you make my wife disappear? Oh, just be yourself. That'll happen, whatever, that's the kind of like canned thing. I don't think you can, I don't think you should answer like that, because they generally want to know more about you as a person. So tell them about how you got into magic. That's not the question they're asking. They're asking to know more about you. And so that's the way I see of being interesting. But then on the flip side is be interested. And with that, you flip the table, flip the table, and then you start asking them questions about themselves. Do you live around here? Are you visiting? What do you do for work? Just all kinds of things to find out more about them. And obviously, you also want to find out their name and use their name and stuff as you're chatting and stuff as well, because that's one of the things that people like hearing the most is their name. But really try and connect with people on that level, because that's where the real magic happens. And I think that's what the real magic about close-up magic is that connection on a personal level. And kind of a benefit of that is when you start to learn more about them, you're starting to build a friendship, and then they can say, you know what, I know this magician, I saw him over at this restaurant or whatever, and he's there every Sunday. And they're going to start, telling their friends and bringing their friends in and stuff. And those are the people who are probably going to start hiring you as well, whether it be for corporate gigs or, birthday parties, whatever it might be, because people hire their friends.
It's totally true. It goes beyond just the card tricks or the magic show. It shows that you're a real person. You create this real connection with people. By asking questions and being interested in people too, you start to I mean, we have to make assumptions like, oh, I see that guy. I know exactly who that kind of person is. Or I see her over there. I know exactly that kind of person. Then you go over there and you ask a question. Well, what do you do for a living? What's your favorite, thing to do in the summer? And then they might throw something that you didn't even expect, and now you're in a fun conversation and you have a unique conversation about their unique talents and skills. Maybe you don't even show a magic trick, but the
Yeah.
magic trick was that conversation that you took the time to come over there, give them, be interested in them, listen to them. That's the key part. We're getting there soon. Listen to them. But also by using this information, there are general things that you will pick up on people as well. I remember when I was working the restaurants heavily and I was doing about 3 a week or something. I almost knew when a boy, his name would be Liam. I knew it all the time. There was just some sort of like the
Yeah.
parents looked away, he looked away. Like the family had a look about them, and there was an age range for Liam being a super popular name. So keeping that and understanding that is kind of like, and then also knowing that Liam family, other things that usually interest the Liam family too. So you can kind of lob out things and throw them, and then like,
Interesting.
I am into that. I am into that. But I
Yeah.
find I'm not up on these things. You only get those gifts when you're doing a lot of close up all the time. It's almost like doing constant market research,
Hmm.
table to table. Like, what are the shows that kids are watching? What sports and athletes and music do people know? I was doing these virtual magic field trips. I don't, I don't know who DaBaby is. Should I? I don't know.
I don't.
Hip hop artist,
Okay.
but
Okay.
these grade 5 kids were just like making the baby jokes the whole time. And I was like, what is this? And I didn't know if it was like, is this offensive? What is this? I had to Google it in the middle of the show, and I was like, okay. And like right now, I don't know if you know, but people are selling BTS, like the band BTS. Um,
No.
they're like a Korean K-pop group.
Okay.
So they have in Canada, I don't know if it's probably all over the world, but they have a special McDonald's meal for BTS. And they like a chicken nugget with spicy dipping sauce meal.
I
However,
had heard about that.
people are selling the cups for like $10 to $50, just the cup. That's how crazy. So, and these give you storylines to magic tricks. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
imagine you knew the people you were approaching or a possible topic that might come up. It goes back to that ham sandwich principle, right? Um, Producing a ham sandwich when someone asks for it is super magical, right? That kind of idea.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is remember remember their names, the little gifts they give you about their personality and stuff, maybe they collect stamps or whatever. You know, after you're done performing, write down the names and like that little bit of information about them so you can remember that next time they come in.
Yeah, and so this is
Mm.
deep cut stuff. Do you have? I use
Yeah.
a CRM, like a client management system, for my bookings and my contracts and everything like that. And in there's a notes column where you can keep those notes, like birthdays, um, where they heard about you, interesting, like you said, interesting topics. So you can keep those notes and not have to be so stressed out about them. But I
Hmm.
find, and you might find this too, a lot of the stuff you just naturally remember because you are building relationships, and these people do become your friends. So you're like, I totally remember where we met, kind of the tricks I did. I probably gave you the spent quarter in your hand. Um, and then I know you work here, or you were working here at the time. I remember talking about flooring or floor surfaces with you, kind of thing.
Hmm.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's just a good thing to keep in mind for life as well. I mean, I generally use Evernote to just kind of have like a running list of names and notes and stuff. But I've used that as I've met people around the neighborhood we've moved into, so I can remember their names and their pets' names, and where they are like in the neighborhood and stuff like that,
That is
and what we
a
talked about.
That's a huge life tip because we moved here 6 years ago in our neighborhood. There's a gentleman up the street we talk to every single day, and we just call him Nice Lawn Guy because he has a super nice lawn. But we don't know if his name's Gary or Greg, and it might not even be one of those. We can't remember. We can't remember.
It's actually Terry. There's no J in there at
Yeah, yeah.
all.
But when you have the conversation with like their significant other, and you're trying to
Yeah.
like toss out their name, toss me their name. I remember doing magic. So this is totally side note, but one of the servers was like, that guy comes into the restaurant every single week. I can't remember his first name though. Can you
And
just?
nobody can.
So they're like, can you go over there? And I was like, I should know his name too because I talk to him every week. I only know him as Q. That's what he told me. So I'll try to get him to sign a card, and then he signs the card, and it's like chicken scratches. I was like, son of a.
Or better yet, they draw a picture of like a star with a happy face. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right,
Or they hand it
that
over to
tells me
their,
nothing.
or they're like, I've done this one before. Let my daughter do it. And you're like, oh, okay, great. This is great. This isn't going well. I can't sleuth this today.
So
So
then it's like, how about you write your name and your dad's name? That way it makes it more special for the two of you.
yeah, let's make it connective here. So the last and final point that we've kind of already talked about this, but it's listening, and it's listening to your audience, because your audience is going to give you gifts. And a key thing too, and Kris, I don't know if you ever actually practiced improv, or have you just established improv skills through working magic, podcasting, and all that?
A little bit of both. Back in the day, I took like theater games and exercises
Yeah,
class, which was basically we just went there and played Whose Line Is It Anyway.
sure. Yeah.
But that certainly helped a lot. And you get the whole yes and thing. Nothing is like wrong or whatever. You accept it and then you add to it, basically, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
So
and that's one thing that I've also learned from podcasting too, from doing a lot of interviews, is you might have an idea or a flow of questions, but then we're in a conversation. So I'm going to yes and you and not totally go to my questions just yet. Maybe pocket that question for later, because it might come up, but it might flow into something else. But also just while doing magic, as people talk to you, I used to, but this comes with time, as we've talked about. So nervous about the magic trick that I'm not paying attention to the audience and what they're saying at all. I'm just steamrolling through the magic trick to make sure the magic happens, right? But once you realize the magic is about the experience for all of us, me having fun and you having fun, then we can start to get more into the yes and environment. And then we get more opportunities of misdirection, right? I mean,
yeah.
once you get into that conversation, the idea of doing a deck switch is not scary at all. I mean, you literally just put your hand in your pocket, no one knows. You can get away with ridiculous things when you get everyone loose in that sense, instead of, if you approach a stand-up magic show, a close-up magic show, any magic show, and you're tense and nervous, everyone feels that. So whatever you got to do, if it's even just doing more performances, getting more fear and courage under your belt, kind of thing, that's probably most of it.
Yeah.
But as you get more relaxed, you can listen more, and you can make the tricks more about them and an engaging process.
And that's what's cool is that the audience really kind of reflects what you put out.
Yeah.
And so with listening, that's where, having your script and everything tight and where you're going to go, that makes it so that you can stray from it, because you always know where you're going to go back to.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, I feel like performances really become more of a conversation between you and your audience, whether it's on stage, whether you're doing close-up magic. And that's also where hecklers kind of disappear as well, because what is heckling anyway? In that it's really just a unique reaction to your magic. People don't know how to process magic, and so they'll laugh, they'll gasp in amazement, or they'll speak up and seemingly interrupt the show or whatever. But if you have your script tight and your choreography with your moves and everything, then you can better listen to your audience and be aware of how everybody's reacting, and you can acknowledge that person's response, whatever it is, and acknowledge it, and so that other people know what's going on as well, and that makes things more unique. People aren't going to experience the same show, and it just, I think it makes for a better show, and it just goes back to the whole conversation between you and the audience. It's a full rounded out experience, even though the tricks are the same.
I think that's the perfect way to put it, is that it's a really great way to look at the whole thing, is that what magic is really just a unique form of artistic conversation that, unlike music necessarily or other forms of performance art, you actually get to be involved, and you're part of this, and you're an important part of this. You're our dance partner for this magic trick, and you as the audience participant are so important. And we have to value that through listening and being authentic and relatable and all these things so that we get a great conversation out of it and we get positive vibes. I think
Yeah,
that's really great.
that actually reminds me of something I heard on the radio, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And this is, it's sure we're talking about how we can, create a unique experience for our audience in magic shows, but this is something that I experienced on the radio from a musician. And I don't know if it was like a live show that they were playing on the radio or if it was like a recording from it or whatever, but it was a show that John Mellencamp was doing. And he was playing, what was that song, like Jack and Diane or whatever. And there was like a break in the song, and he got somebody up on stage who was on their phone. Right? Okay, so what, as magicians, what's one of the things that we don't like is when people are on their phone, right? It's like you're not listening, you're not fully present in the show and this and that. But he brought her up on stage and he asked her, "Who's on the phone?" Right? And she said, "It's my mom. And this is her favorite song." And so what did he do? He changed the song a little bit and put something in there special for that girl's mom. And she got to experience the live show through the phone. And I thought that was just something super, super awesome that he did. And that's something that has stuck with me since I heard that. And it makes me consider, like, how can I do something like that for my audiences, you know?
That gives me goosebumps and chills.
Right?
It's so empathetic, and maybe something that we should have added to the list in closing off here is be understanding.
It's a bonus.
Right? Because sometimes I know I've heard of magicians like, oh, that person in the back, they were doing this. We don't know we can't make an assumption of what's been going on in their day. Sure. So what, they have a phone call. Maybe it's really, really important to them right now. We've all had an important scenario where we're waiting on a phone call that we need right now. And it might be at an inopportune time, like at the back of a kid's magic show or something, you know? So taking those assumptions, or maybe it's like this, and you have a fan on the other end of the line and you're sharing the experience with someone through the phone and you didn't even know that. And that becomes even more magical, you know? Yeah. So understanding and making assumptions, which we could even make a whole episode about, I think, too.
Yep. And years down the line, that girl and her mom are gonna be like, "Hey, you remember that one time you were at the John Mellencamp show, and I kind of was there too." And you know, that's a memory they're gonna have forever.
That's totally unbelievable. And obviously it's recorded. And think of the phone, just the phone, that device would be like, we got to frame this, we got to get him to sign it, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yep.
That's so magical. Well, Kris, I think this has been a really great conversation. We went to so many places I didn't expect to go, I think. And that's what I love about doing these conversations. But I think today was extra special because we have a different perspective here with you today, Kris. And thanks so much for being on the podcast. Is there anything else you want to share before we kind of wrap up here about everything that we discussed?
Oh man, just check out performerstories.com and check out the show. Graham has been on a number of episodes because he shared some awesome stories. Well, what did you say? You're the
Bruce Valanche of Performer Stories podcast. So if people don't even know that pop culture reference, Center Square.
I told him up.
Center Square on Hollywood Squares. Come on, and like the rebirth of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, everyone, make sure to check out Performer Stories podcast. Kris, do you have anything else on the go, magic wise, that we should all be following?
I still have all my old episodes up of Successful Performer Cast, and from over there you can find interviews with people like Mac King, Joe Monty, Lou Serrano,
Fielding West, right?
Fielding West.
That's one of the best interviews on the planet. So I've listened to that so many times. There's so much. Okay, everyone should go back and listen to your podcast. There's tons of value in there, and I know it's older now. A lot of it's still current. Lou Serrano talks a lot about websites and things like this. Still current stuff. Yep. Fielding West talks really about performing and slowing down your pace. He talks about using a metronome. And some of this, what was the story? Hold a big stick, drink a glass of water, hold a big...
Yeah, I can't... That was like... what was that? That was his quote or something. Drink a lot of water, or drink water and carry a big stick and I can't remember where we said it was from. Maybe it was from like, Teddy Roosevelt or something.
Yeah.
But the idea with drinking a lot of water is you can't talk while you're drinking water, so it forces you to listen. And I can't remember what the
holding a stick is standing your ground.
Okay,
and
that's
being confident, but then it has this undertone of like, do you have to pee really bad? It's just so good. It's so hilarious. The Fielding West episode is, I think, worth a listen back if you want to dive into and see what Chris's original podcast was about.
Yep, and it's all free. You don't have to pay anything to listen to it. Just subscribe on your podcatcher of choice. It's still there.
Awesome. Well, Kris, thanks so much for being here. And if you are a fan of Magicians Talking Magic, be sure to join the Discord if you haven't yet. We see each week a couple more people trickle in. They go, oh, I got to see what's going on in there. And it's fun. Daniel Greenwolf, former podcast guest, just joined in to see what's going on in Discord, which is really cool. These episodes are also now on YouTube, so maybe you watched along this week, and thank you so much for that. Plus, we have merchandise at Redbubble. All these links are in the description below. I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening to the Triple Snaps, Kris. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Magicians Talking Magic. My name is Grimazing.
I am not Ryan Joyce. I am Kris Sheppard.
This is weird because you should go Shablazm.
Shablazm.
Tadoozle. Meow.